We have Saturday games, Sunday night football, and 3 Christmas games. It's removing most of the big names from the main slate. So who are we going to play? Stick around to find out. What is up? Welcome in to DFS Academy. I am your host tonight, Austin Amandolia at Austin_FFL on Twitter and Instagram. And with me, as always, is Kelly Singh at Kelly in Phoenix. Kelly, how are you tonight?
I'm super good. Thanks for asking.
Is that a new flag in your background?
It is a new flag in my background. Yes. They handed these out at the game last week. I'm looking the wrong way.
That is really fun. And what a game to go to watch Christian McCaffrey just be a beast.
Yeah, I mean, there was that, but it was also really fun. It was a fun game, fun to watch. There was an unfortunate defensive touchdown that was returned, which could have changed the whole momentum. So yeah, it was fun to watch regardless.
Well, there you go. Speaking of fun, here's your reminder that you can play DFS with us. We don't just talk DFS, we also play it. We offer up contests every week on DraftKings and FanDuel. The links to join those leagues are in the description of the show. They'll also be in the article that will drop today, where I talk through DFS Cash plays. That's the A list. And also on Kelly's article on Saturday, where she recaps this show. Also, here's your friendly reminder to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so that, you know, every time we go live and you don't ever miss out on your DFS picks. But we're going to get into answers to the test where we look back to last week's Millie Maker winning lineup and see if we can replicate it, see what we can learn from it. Last week, the Millie Maker winners scored 230.84 points, a big, fat, nice amount that I dream of getting one day. They had, shockingly, Baker Mayfield and at quarterback, had Christian McCaffrey, Rachaad White, Demarcus Robinson, who, as we record, is popping off once again, Noah Brown, Jaden Reed, David Njoku, James Cook, and the Cleveland Browns defense. Kelly, any takeaways from this Millie Maker lineup?
I mean, that is quite a roundup, I must say. Obviously, making Christian McCaffrey fit in seems to be key every week, but I happen to love Njoku and the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, I love tight ends. I love the connection between Joe Flacco and David Njoku. And I've called the Browns 2 weeks in a row, and they have been fire. So the rest of them, though, I'm like, wow, that's random.
Yeah, it was what a week to keep the faith with James Cook, right? Like,
Yeah.
people have been pulling for him for years, it feels like, and then suddenly he just becomes the best running back in the league overnight, and Josh Allen is rendered irrelevant. That's how it goes, and that's the beauty of DFS. Slate breaker was Christian McCaffrey, no shock there. Once again, beating up on the Arizona Cardinals. I would love, like, he scored. I'm sorry, Kelly. He scored so many touchdowns on the Cardinals this year. I think it's like 7 touchdowns now that he scored this year. That's more touchdowns than many NFL players have scored all season, and he's done it all against one team. But
you would think that they would learn to cover him by now, because the most embarrassing play of the game was when he was completely wide open, fell down, got up, and still ran in with nobody on him.
yeah, that was pretty comical to be watching without having any stake in it. You know, like it's much funnier if you're not a fan of that team. But we're going to get into top of the class. These are our players priced $8,000 and more. So these are the players that we are spending big on. And we just have one for you this week. And we'll talk about why in a moment. But I have Tyreek Hill for you. I think Tyreek Hill is a great cash play this week. On DraftKings, he is 9,600. He is 10K on FanDuel. There's the obvious. If he sits out because he's hurt, we're not playing him. You probably can play Jalen Waddle instead. Like he killed it last week as a fill-in for Tyreek Hill. And honestly, if Tyreek Hill doesn't play, then your lineup's going to get really fun because you're just going to have all sorts of salary to be able to blow all of a sudden because there's basically no other expensive players worth playing this week. He just continues to be dominant every week, and he's like the only expensive player on the main slate. You have to take him. I don't really love the cheaper options at receiver this week, so I'm going with the sure thing. Get the 30 points from Tyreek Hill and call it good. Kelly, this is the point where I typically turn it to you and say, hey, who do you have over 8K this week? But you're throwing a twist for us this week.
I don't have anybody over 8K this week. There are so many really good options. I'm looking at my notes between 5 and 7.5. So, I mean, I don't even know if I have any over 7 on DraftKings to be one, but I didn't put them in our notes today. So in my article for on playerprofiler.com, there are several other options in these price ranges we're about to dive into, and it was hard to choose, but none of them were over 8K.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have a lot of options priced below 8K this week, and I agree. I had a hard time selecting which ones I wanted to talk about on the show today. So there are some great options. Speaking of those great options, we got the band nerds who are players priced 6 to 8K. These are the kids, they're not quite top of the class because they're too busy practicing their instruments, too busy with band practice after school to really hit the top of the class. So, Kelly, we're going to get you to get us started on this. You have
Okay.
a nice quarterback for us this week who, hey, won somebody $1 million last week.
That is true. I never, ever, ever thought I would list Baker Mayfield as one of my potential core picks, but here we are, 6K on DraftKings, 7.3K on FanDuel. He currently ranks 5th in the NFC with 24 touchdown passes this season. Jacksonville has been pretty stinky this year on defense. They rank 27th overall. And yeah, I mean, mid to high rostership, very manageable salary. He's on a roll. I think this is a great matchup for Baker Mayfield this week.
This is the thing that's so great about DFS. In redraft season, if you had said, like, I'm rolling out with Baker Mayfield as my top quarterback, people would have trolled you off of Twitter. And now, hey, I honestly, there's a world in which Baker Mayfield is cash viable this week as well, too. Like, I think he's a pretty safe play. The volume is there. And like you said, Kelly, Jacksonville has been not great on defense despite all of that talent. But you don't only have quarterback for us, you also have a great, incredible running back.
I do. And here's where I had such a hard time because I was going back and forth, back and forth. Do I want to share a wide receiver? Do I want to share a running back? But I decided to go with King Henry. Derrick Henry, 6.8K on DraftKings, 7.9 on FanDuel. So he's might be my priciest pick this week. But throwing those stats out there, I'm going to say Derrick Henry for an anytime touchdown. Mark that. He's had 2 rushing touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 games. I like this matchup. He's projected for 14 fantasy points, mid to high rostership around 13%. For perspective, our highest running backs are going at around 22 to 24% rostership. This could be his 5th game in a row with 16 or more rushing attempts if you want to build another prop out of that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take the volume, and I like that. I like that end zone pick for Henry. I think there is a good chance he makes it in the end zone. Seattle Seahawks not doing great against running backs in recent weeks. And King Henry is poised to take advantage of that. He also is a player that I have considered for cash, but I got some other running backs I like, so I might throw him in a tournament lineup though. But for me, we're going to start back at quarterback. I have Justin Fields in my player pool this week. He is $7,100 on DraftKings and $8,300 on FanDuel. Here's the thing: there's no Josh Allen, there's no Jalen Hurts, there's no Patrick Mahomes. Like, no Lamar Jackson, no Brock Purdy, all of these great quarterbacks that we'd love to go to and DFS and cash lineups, not on the main slate. Justin Fields is one of the safest bets. First off, he gets the Arizona Cardinals, which, if you haven't heard, continues to be a good defense to exploit for fantasy purposes. They've allowed the eighth most points to quarterbacks since week 12. And I particularly like Fields on FanDuel, where the rushing upside helps build a safe floor from him because you don't get those bonus points for passing yards. And because the scoring system is just a bit different, having that rushing upside is really helpful for playing him on FanDuel. So I really appreciate him there. I have a cheaper quarterback that we'll talk later on that I am a fan of on DraftKings. But at running back, I have Rachaad White, who is $7,400 on DraftKings and $7,700 on FanDuel. And the deal here is he's just getting the volume. And I'm just going to chase that volume. I don't understand why he's getting 20 touches plus a game. Like, it's not efficient, it's not pretty, but Tampa Bay has remained committed to the run and committed to Rachaad White. And also, Jacksonville is only favored by 3 points. If I had told you in August of this year that when Tampa Bay and Jacksonville play, that Jacksonville would be favored by 3 points, you'd probably think something must have happened to Trevor Lawrence, and you'd be right. But you wouldn't have bet on that in the preseason. The spread indicates that this game should stay close, so I'm not worried about Rachaad White getting game scripted out of this matchup. And again, the volume's just there. He's good odds to get in the end zone, so we're sticking with it.
Did you know that Justin Fields has rushed for 50 or more yards in 3 of his last 4 games? I
Did
like
not
Justin
know
Fields
that.
as well this week, so I thought I'd throw that in there.
That is a really great stat. It also sounds like the type of thing that would inspire Kelly to make a prop bet.
It is.
I am a big fan of Justin Fields this week, and that is a great reason to be in on him. But next up, we have the bookworms. These are the kids with their nose in the books and easily underestimated, but look out, they are sharp. These are our value plays priced between 4K and 6K that we are targeting in cash and in tournaments. And Kelly, we're going to get you started again. And I want to get you started with your tight end that you picked.
Sure. This week, no surprise, I'm giving you a tight end. I'm going with Trey McBride, and guess what? So is everyone else. Trey McBride is 5.7K on DraftKings, 7K on FanDuel. He just became the second NFC tight end, second to TJ Hawkinson, with 10 or more catches and 100 or more receiving yards in a single game this season. Hawkinson happened to do that in week 10. So it's a pretty cool stat to achieve. This could be his 6th game in a row with 5 or more catches. So there is some production, but we know he'll do probably more than that, I would say. Projected for 13.5 points. But yeah, he's going to be on all the rosters pretty much. And I think for good reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to argue with what Trey McBride has done this year. If I end up pivoting off of Tyreek Hill, it's probably going to be Trey McBee going in my tight end spot. Right now, I just don't have the salary for him, but it's hard to argue with that performance. But you have a quarterback that I never thought I would see in the fantasy context again. Frankly, I thought he had retired. Joe Flacco back in our
Yeah.
lineups.
Back in our lineups. This is the second week in a row that I've written about Joe Flacco, but I might as well have written about him 3 weeks in a row because he has had 250 or more passing yards and 2 or more touchdown passes in each of his 3 starts. That is wild, wild, wild. And 5.5K on DraftKings. Come on now. 7-1 on FanDuel. Mediocre Houston defense, especially in allowing points to a quarterback. But however, we all know Joe Cool is not super mobile, but they happen to have a fantastic O-line that gives him all the time in the world to make these amazing passes. And he's going to be on around 7% of rosters, which is mid-range.
Yeah, I love that pick. I'm a big fan of having Joe Flacco this week. I think he is also cash viable. He's been passing the ball like 44, 45 times per game. Also, on the Houston side of this, Will Anderson missed last week. So be on the lookout for that because if he misses again last week, they're going to have a hard time getting pressure against this stout Cleveland offensive line. Speaking of Cleveland, I have hopefully somebody being the recipient of Joe Flacco's insane target volume or pass volume. That's Elijah Moore, who is $4,200 on DraftKings and $5,500 on FanDuel. Here's the deal. I almost started saying the wrong stats because I scrolled to the wrong player for a second, but I avoided that. Elijah Moore has run a route on over 95% of his passing snaps each of the
Wow.
past 3 weeks, while Joe Flacco has been the starter. He is consistently the second, ranked second on the Cleveland Browns in terms of total routes run. So it's not just that he only gets a limited number of snaps on passing downs and runs routes on them. He's actually on the field running routes. He had a down week last week. So I'm just going to ignore that and throw that out. He's been getting like 6 to 10 targets a game pretty consistently. And with Joe Flacco in the offense, yeah, Amari Cooper got going last week, and Flacco freaking loves David Njoku. So that's also a
Yep.
great tight end pick this week.
Yep.
But I love Elijah Moore. He's going to continue being on the field. And at 4,200, it's so cheap. I don't need much from him. And he enables me to pay up elsewhere. So, as a reminder, you can play with us on DraftKings and FanDuel. The links for those leagues are in the league. But now we get to Ryan's favorite part of the show, which is the C's get degrees. These are the punt players of the week. These are the players priced 4K or less. So, you're getting really down bad with your player options here. And Kelly, you have two defenses for us this week.
I do have 2 defenses this week. I didn't find too much that I wanted to play way down deep, but I wanted to talk about defense this week because I found a super weird anomaly and wanted to kind of exploit it or just play with it. The New York Jets are 3.1K on DraftKings, 5K on FanDuel. Why is it like this? Why are they the most expensive defense on FanDuel and like one of the least expensive on DraftKings? I'm not quite sure. They're projected for 8.7 fantasy points, so I will be playing the Jets on DraftKings. But I need another defense for FanDuel because I sure as heck are not paying 5K. So I went with the Seattle Seahawks. If you want to play them on DraftKings, you could as well. 3.2K, 3.5K on FanDuel. They're projected, however, for 7.2 fantasy points, which is the best in their tier on FanDuel. So if you're looking at prices, you're looking at points projections. That's where I landed. The Jets on DraftKings and the Seahawks on FanDuel.
I really love that. That's often a strategy I'll take as well with defenses is having one for each website. And we talk about it a lot in terms of prop betting and betting on different sports books, how you need to like check out different sports books and different prop bet sites to check out the lines and make sure you're
Mhm.
getting and using them to inform each other and getting the best value on your picks. And that applies to DFS too. Like what you're just saying, Kelly, like the New York Jets being 5K on FanDuel, they score exactly the same on both sides. Defenses are
Yep.
scored exactly the same. So there's some advantage here. I think I'm with you, Kelly, on this one. I'm like DraftKings, like that is such a value for the Jets defense. Like we've seen them be dominant all year long. So I don't really know why DraftKings is just like skipping out on their job and letting FanDuel price up the good defenses. But hey, that's what's happening this week. So I have a tight end and a defense for us this week. My tight end, who I guess is basically my Mark Andrews to Kelly Singh because I pick him all the time for my article and for the show, and that's Cade Otton, who I didn't realize I was going to be a big stan of him coming into this year. He is $3,300 on DraftKings and $5,200 on FanDuel. As I mentioned, I'm probably paying up for Tyreek Hill, and so I'm looking for cheap options at tight end. And Cade Otton, he is the fourth most routes run among all tight ends that have at least 24 targets on the season. He is out running routes all the time on the field, getting opportunities for targets. And Jacksonville has averaged 16.7 points per game allowed to tight ends over the past 4 weeks. Like Kelly mentioned earlier, this Jacksonville defense is not great. Tampa Bay should be able to throw the ball a ton. I'm also not even worried about playing Cade Otton with Rachaad White because I think they can both get there based on both of their volumes. So I think Cade Otton is a great way to save some money this week. And another great way to save money this week is with the Minnesota Vikings defense, who are at $2,500 on DraftKings and $3,600 on FanDuel. The short version of this is they were the only defense cheap enough for me to fit in my lineup once I got everybody else in there. But the long version is also the fact that the Detroit Lions have been pretty turnover prone lately, particularly Jared Goff. He's been kind of on an interception streak here recently. And the Vikings are in a very aggressive defense, which I like for DFS because it means there's a lot of ceiling opportunity there. They've been blitzing on over half of their plays, which by far leads the league. Like Brian Flores is a madman out here just trying to make quarterbacks hate their lives whenever they play the Vikings. And I love it. It's a fun style. They also have the 10th most sacks on the season. So, not like elite, but they're still top 10 in sacks, which is good for DFS, particularly at this price. A couple sacks, we're all good. I feel like it'll be a fun matchup and that the Vikings will keep it close, even though they have been, I guess, considered underdogs in this matchup for given the way this season has gone. Now it's time for the prop quiz brought to you by BetStamp. BetStamp funnels all of your betting and DFS into one place to help you get the best bang for your bucks. Use the link in the description to see what sportsbooks and DFS sites are available in your state and receive a deposit match for whatever sites you sign up with. You'll start making money in no time. You can even help with prop bets, and so can myself and Kelly. Kelly, I love BetStamp. I have had several new sites come up for that. But this week, we're going with just the underdog picks for me. I had a good week last year. We went 4 or 5. It was a good get right week after kind of a bunch of mid weeks. But we had some fun ones here. First off, Josh Allen, over 246.5 passing yards. James Cook is not going to be the offense every week. Like I felt like all the sets were like, oh yeah, okay, Josh Allen's not a passing quarterback anymore. And I'm like, okay, that's just an overreaction. So I'm taking the over there. But we're taking the under on Sam Howell's passing line at 213.5 passing yards. I don't feel good about Sam Howell. He's hit this mark in 2 of his last 3 games. And frankly, if things aren't going well, he might get benched. Like we saw that happen towards the end of last game. And so sometimes you got to account for that things might go awry and a lot of things have to go right for players to hit their over. So I like taking Sam Howell's under this week. We've got Bijan Robinson over 58.5 rushing yards, which I'm frankly a little afraid to do after last week because that did not go well. But I'm expecting a bounce back week. I don't think that they're going to have him on the bench twice in 2 weeks in a row like they did last week. Arthur Smith getting cute, benching their best player because he fumbled the ball. I don't think that's going to fly again this week, especially when it costs them a win against the worst team in the league. Like surely we'll use our best player after that. Once again, we're going to Rachaad White over 18.5 rushing attempts. He's hit this mark 3 weeks in a row, and we played it last week and it hit, which was great. And then my last one that I probably feel the worst about, but I still like it because I think it's good value, is Marquez Valdez-Scantling over 15.5 receiving yards. The great thing about this is like he could do that in one catch because that's the role that he has in this offense. And you need a little Christmas Day parlay action in there, so throw him in there. Kelly, What do you got for us?
I was just looking to see if I could pull up a few of last week's, and last week's I did not have a great week actually. So, I do not feel bad about not preparing my picks for this week, but I did throw out a few little nuggets in the commentary. I'll go ahead and in the show notes when I place my article on Saturday, you'll find those nuggets and you can bet on them with me. But yeah, I'm going to give myself some grace this week.
Oh, I'm here for it. And honestly, this just teaches you all listening that you should listen to the whole show. Don't just skip to the prop bets part. Like go back, listen to those nuggets from Kelly. And it's a busy time of year. We got a lot on our plates. We can't
Yes.
all be perfect all 18 weeks. But it's time for the valedictorian shootout where Kelly and I go head to head in our DFS lineups. We don't actually play each other, but we do go head to head on the show, which is fun.
It's so fun that I lost spectacularly this week.
It's fun for me, kind of, I think. So I won last week 141.48 points. Kelly coming up with 97.98 points. This is just, the nature of our play styles. But I will, I'll go ahead and announce my lineup first. And Kelly has already put her lineup in here. So I already know that we have a little bit of overlap. Um, Kelly, how mad would you have been if I had like seen your lineup and like, I'm going to change my lineup fully now and just like,
Copy it.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Copy it, except change one player. That would be kind of entertaining, actually.
After I saw your picks, I had a feeling we would at least cross over at quarterback.
Yes. Well, that is true. So I have Joe Flacco, quarterback, who is 5,500. Rachaad White as one of my running backs at 7,400, with Kenneth Walker at 6,200 and Bijan Robinson at 6,300 in my flex spot. A little bit nervous about Bijan Robinson, but we'll see. We'll see. I think it might work out again this week. Then I mentioned it all show long. I have Tyreek Hill at receiver at 9,600, with Brandon Cooks at 4,900 and Elijah Moore at 4,200. That gives me just enough space to squeeze in Cade Otton at 3,300 and the Minnesota Vikings defense at $2,500. I'll be honest, there's a good chance that in my actual cash lineup, I change this between now and Sunday because I don't feel like perfect about this, but this is kind of where my Thursday night process is. We'll see where we go from there. Kelly, what do you have for us?
Everyone's going to be shocked that I am not playing 2 tight ends this week.
That is shocking.
Shocking, I know. I am playing a different tight end than I even mentioned on the show, but I am starting off with Joe Flacco, which is what we talked about. Derrick Henry. I'm also playing Bijan Robinson, which I am a little nervous about. Tyler Lockett, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Wilson, David Njoku, JSN, and the Jets. I like Njoku. I wrote him up this week. I think him and Flacco will make a great stack. And I really actually like the Michael Wilson play this week. There's been a lot of talk about how he was underutilized in last week's game. So I'm hoping to see some more action this week from Michael Wilson.
Yeah, I love that David and Njoku pick. There's a lot of good picks at tight end this week. There's a lot of directions that you can just go right. I think this is one of the weeks too where like spending a little bit more on tight end is more worth it,
Yeah.
even though I have sort of taken the opposite route and just continue to stick to my priors of punting at tight end. But we'll figure it out. We'll go from there. A lot of time for things to change. As a reminder, you can join the class and play with us on DraftKings and FanDuel every week. We post a weekly contest, and if you come play with us, you could have the opportunity to have your name announced if you win the league, just like Tootsie Pop 6, who won our DraftKings league with 184.42 points. This was very exciting. This is one of Club Fantasy's own. She started riding with us this year And also, the fun thing that I found fun about this is that at the beginning of the year, she was joining our show saying like, "Oh, I got to figure out this DFS thing. Never really played before. At least that's my understanding.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but my
Nope, that's
understanding
good.
was never played before, and now taking down the show league. Big fan of that. Speaking of people taking down the show league, J Dubs 1035. That would be Joel Worth won our FanDuel league for the fourth time this year with
Wow.
131.62 points. And this was also back to back victories for Joel. Joel just crushing it on our FanDuel league. But thank you for joining us tonight. I said tonight. It's not tonight anymore, but it is for us. Kelly, tell the people where they can find you and what you are working on.
You can find me at Kelly in Phoenix, and that's where I share pretty much everything that I'm working on. I would like to say one more thing. Tootsie Pop 6 has some amazing prize picks. She has gotten really good at prize picks, which is a lot like Underdog. So go ahead, visit Betstamp, set up your account, and follow Tootsie Pop 6 for some really great picks.
Yeah, I've seen her screenshot. She has been killing it on the prop bet game lately. As a reminder, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so that we can monetize this and pay the good people like Kelly that make this ship roll forward. And me too. But I feel awkward about that, so I'm gonna just say it's for Kelly. We got to prop up Kelly. Um, Also, it just means the world to us when you hit that subscribe button. But whether the holidays got you down or it's the most wonderful time of the year, DFS is here for you. Catch us next week.